makes me wanna holler, go away. I need more peace and hope and love. Where do I find it in this crazy old world? I need strategies, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Every time I listen, Lauren and David share strategies for living, and it makes me aware. I got strategies for living, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab.
We need them. Yeah, we need those strategies, don't we? Those strategies for living. So are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yeah.
Ready or not, here we come. Hey,
That's
folks,
right.
welcome. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillian. She is psychotherapist, PLPC Lauren Leon McMillian. And here's the question for the day, Lauren.
What's the question?
Are you living your life, or are you reacting to it? How much of your day is actually chosen? And how much of it is just happening to you?
This is the question of an awakened life.
Ooh, yeah. I mean,
That's what I would argue.
Absolutely. If one of the things we need to understand, it's one of the most powerful shifts that any of us can make in our life. It's not changing what we do, but becoming more
How?
intentional about why we do it. Because intentionality is the difference between drifting and directing, between reacting and responding, between existing and truly living.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's between recognizing who and what you are, which is a creator. In every single moment, we have the power to create and to shape our lives.
Yes. And you know, the truth of the matter is most of us don't lack discipline. We don't lack motivation. What we lack is clarity of intention.
Mm-hmm.
Because when intention is clear, then our decisions become easier, our energy becomes focused, life begins to align in ways that maybe sometimes even feel effortless, right?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's the idea of deciding to take authorship over your life.
Yes, yes.
Beginning to recognize, have the powerful beings that we are and what we choose to create and what we choose to learn from that.
So today we're going to talk about what intentionality is, why it's so powerful, and how to begin living your life on purpose. And we can start right now, right?
Absolutely. That's all there is.
Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies. We appreciate you, and we appreciate our sponsors who make it possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Learning RX, We Train Your Brain, the Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of the Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, pretty good Muffies too, SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira, Direct Primary Care. Back in a moment, and we'll be intentional about it. Come back with us.
Tune in daily, find the light. Healthy mind and spirits bright. Strategies for living strong. Feel the vibe, it won't go wrong. Body moves and soul align. Catch the rhythm, feel the time. Radio rehab every day. Chase those clouds of gray away. Your daily dose of radio rehab. Lift you up when skies seem drab. Mind and body, spirits free. Living life in harmony.
And welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian, talking about today the power of intentionality and living our lives on purpose. Okay, so it occurs to me,
Yeah.
we use the word
Well,
intentionality.
I'm glad you were going to go there. Because
Yeah, well,
think
I was
that's
going to ask
important.
you. I
Yeah.
was going to ask you. You're the professional in the room, and so can you give us a working definition
Sure.
of what intentionality is? Because I think it's important for all of us to be very clear
I
about
think
what
so
we're
too.
talking about.
Because, and I'm glad you bring this up, because when we started talking about living with intention and what intentionality means, I heard my grandfather's voice in my head, because a phrase he used to say often was, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions,"
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's not really the type of intention we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
some people will say, well, I intended to do that, right? And that's not exactly the definition that I think we're talking about here. A better definition for me, I think, one that I've played with a lot, I think of intention as active prayer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so, it's if we go back actually to the roots of the word intention, we see the word in, which we all kind of know what that means, right?
Right.
To go in
To go
or
in.
toward something. And then ten, the root ten actually means to stretch.
Okay.
So if we put that together, the word intent beautifully means to stretch inward,
Ooh.
to stretch towards perhaps what Jesus was talking about that is inside, which is
The
the
kingdom
of
is
heaven,
within. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And which suggests more of the definition of that we're talking about, that intention of conscious creation, right? And so, we talk about, when I say active prayer, you can just wash the dishes. You can do a behavior like washing the dishes, right?
Right.
But if to do a behavior with intention, right, means to be fully present and to bring all of your creative attention into the moment, to consciously create something in that moment. So in the example of the dishes, right?
Yeah, we don't think most of us don't think a whole lot. Okay, the dishes just have to be washed.
Right. But if you bring intention to washing the dishes, you can feel the water and you can thank the dishes for holding your food, and you can ask that all the negative, thoughts or ideas of the day be washed down the drain with the water. You bring, that's what I'm talking about when I say intention as active prayer.
You can be thankful for cleanliness.
Yes.
Because
or
billions
for running
running water, clean water, because billions of people in the world don't have the ability
right.
to have running water, clean running water, and the ability to wash. So
it's not just setting goals, as it would suggest when you say, well, I intend to do something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's beyond that.
Yeah.
It's asking why am I doing this, and how can I create something special in this moment with the power that I have?
Yeah.
The power
who
of thought
am
and
I?
emotion.
Who am I being while I do
Yes,
this?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, and in that contrast to a lot of the way we live our lives, doesn't it? Which is kind of default living. And what do I mean by that? Well, we're on autopilot. I mean, it's autopilot, it's habit, it's reactivity.
Yeah.
And reaction. I mean, take that C and move it over to the left.
3 places.
3 letters, and you get creation.
Right.
But when you don't see it right, you get reaction. And so many of us, I think, don't see it today. And so a lot of our life is just reaction and autopilot and habit, as opposed to living intentionally.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where a lot of people can get tripped up, right? Because on the outside, 2 people can be doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But internally, it's coming from a completely different place.
Yeah.
And you can feel the difference.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can feel it when you interact with that person, or when you are the person. There's a totally different feeling, because you're coming from a literal different state of being, right?
Absolutely. And again, awareness, choice, alignment. That's what intentional living is. It's bringing all of that into play and lining that up, right?
Yeah.
And that's what, living intentionally, I would argue, is really living.
Yes.
Default living is really giving our life away.
And I think this is interesting because I think we're coming up in an era where we're really rubbing up against this because of the advancement of technology and the evolution and the introduction of AI, right?
Right.
Because we're coming to this point where, wow, what can it not do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my answer to that, at least for now, is this is part of what it cannot do. It cannot bring intentionality. It cannot bring human emotion and conscious creation into being. And so that's where, if you feel some fear or seeing people who are feeling or expressing feeling threatened by AI or the advancement of technology, it's really a mirror asking you, where in yourself are you not advancing your own, I'm going to call it spiritual technology? Right? Your own built-in spiritual technology, which is that of conscious creation and intentionality.
Let's get psychological for a moment.
Okay.
Okay? And if we get psychological, we understand that we have a conscious mind, and that conscious mind can hold several things at once,
Sure.
But not a bunch.
No, well,
right?
I mean, brain-wise, it's studied to be 7 plus or minus 2.
Okay, there
That's
you
the
go.
Number.
but in terms of we don't just have, thankfully, a conscious mind. We also have an unconscious mind.
Yes, which we know to
mind.
actually contain all the memories of everything that we've ever encountered.
Absolutely. So, and a lot of the way we operate in life, if there's only 7 things that we can hold up there in our conscious mind, then it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yep, sure.
That a lot of what we do is from the unconscious or subconscious patterns that we get into, patterns that just repeat. Habits over and over. That's all subconscious or unconscious stuff.
Right. Well, and as you say, it's an important adaptation.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But we have to understand as humans, psychological beings, that how much and how powerful that subconscious is. And so what have we got to do if we want to live intentionally? We have to interrupt the subconscious patterns, the unconscious patterns.
Right.
So we've got to know they're there. We've got to understand, okay, I have a conscious mind and it's limited. I have this unlimited unconscious mind.
Right.
And
which is always powerfully creating in the background.
Absolutely. And I would say, this is for another program, but I would also say, that unconscious mind, especially with a conscious and unconscious mind, have the ability to tap into the superconscious.
Absolutely.
Which is all of it, all
right.
being, and so, if we understand that, then that's a lot of power. Yeah. So intentionality then is conscious interruption of unconscious living. Let me say that again. Intentionality is consciously interrupting unconscious living.
Yeah.
Now,
well, so what does that look like in practicality, right?
Yeah.
That looks like turning what I would call turning the mundane into magic again. Reclaiming.
Yeah.
So something we do every day, like take a bath or a shower. Hopefully we all do that every day at least, or, often.
Yep.
Right. It's something that we do probably on rote because we started doing it as children and we've developed our habits around it. Right. So that's become a very unconscious pattern. Just how you take a bath or a shower, how you bathe yourself. Right. So how could you interrupt that and bring some conscious, what I would call magic, into the moment, into that mundane, right? And it's the same way as I suggested with washing the dishes, right? To be able to visualize the stresses of the day rolling off your body with
maybe
the water
seeing them wash away.
down the drain, right?
Yeah.
Or lighting if you feel, light a candle. I enjoy to light a candle sometimes with intention. I think this is part of what makes rituals so powerful.
Absolutely.
But it can also be as simple as you've noticed you've gotten into an unhealthy habit, right? A habit of mind, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so to interrupt that and decide, I'm going to rewrite that and change that. So each time you think of that, you consciously decide to do something different.
How different would our world look? Or how different would our community look? Or how different would our family look if we did living with a little bit more intentionality? And there's the spiritual part of this. I mean, we get into the spiritual. Energy flows where attention goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And our intention directs energy. Energy is what shapes our experience. It's everything.
Yes, it is.
It's all energy.
Learning how to work with that and to shape it and transform it. I think that's part of our purpose.
And the wise human mind has that power.
Yes, it does.
It has that power. A lot of us don't realize it, don't know it, but that's the reason we talk about stuff like this, like intentionality. And because every single person listening right now is a very powerful being.
Yep.
We've got more intentionality when we come back here on Strategies for Living. We'll be right back.
Facing the same old problems day to day makes you wanna holler, get away. Looking for the road that'll get me there. Looking for hope and peace to spare. Looking for strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab.
And welcome back in. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian. Our lives are not shaped by what we do,
But how we do them.
but the intention behind what we do. We're talking about intention today. All right, so let me pose this question to you.
Okay.
Why do so many of us, I mean, and again, I guess some people might debate me on this, but I would just ask all of us to take a step back and look at our world and even our own lives and say, okay, well, that habit thing that we were talking, I mean, we've already, for me, I've already hit very close to home,
Yeah.
And so why is it that most of us live unintentionally? Why is unintentional living the default?
Yeah.
It's the default
It's
that we
the
go
default.
to, as
Yeah.
opposed to, I guess we're suggesting today that unintentional living is really, and I'm air quoting here, is really failing to truly live.
Yeah, but it's not a failure.
No,
Right.
no.
Because I think that's important to stress, because I think we start talking about this and people might think, oh, I'm doing it wrong. But it's not really that. It's really that you've been living from what you were given and from the scripts that you were handed to you, right?
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily what you've consciously chosen yet.
No, because
But
we get a lot of programming when we're little.
Right.
And in the first 6 to 9 years of our lives, we get lots of beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
We watch patterns of people that are important to us.
Before we even have the language for what's going
Right.
on. Right.
We see emotional responses to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so autopilot, we kind of learned this by looking at it. It's efficient,
Yes.
but it's not always exactly healthy
No.
if you truly want to live.
Right. And I think the point here is if you never pause to question it, right, we can be living from patterns that don't fit us, and even
And it don't belong to us.
Even worse, are hurting us.
Yeah.
And I think some people can get caught up here because I think part of the reason that so many people are living unconsciously is one, and I might get some balk from this, but it's actually easier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's easier to just
We don't have to
do
put
as
the
you're
effort.
told
Yeah.
and to follow along.
Don't question.
It's easier in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, so.
It's not easier for us as a people as we grow and evolve,
And
even us as individuals.
We've all heard the story of the ladies in the kitchen with the roast and the cutting off
Yes.
each end.
Right.
Everybody's familiar with that, so I won't retell it. But why somebody finally questioned, why do we do that?
Mm-hmm.
And they bring great-grandmother into the room. Well, that's the size pot I had. I didn't, there was no purpose
The other
to it.
issue I think that's important we bring in here as a block, and it's huge, and that is fear.
Yeah.
And I think at some level, we all have to, once we have this knowledge and once we begin to understand, okay, we are powerful, I think to some degree people get fearful of how powerful we are.
Yeah, and I think especially, and this is not just a man thing; it's a human thing. But I think men get tagged with it. I'm not scared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we don't want to admit, and
right, and so scared can show up in lots of different ways, as we've talked about. Right?
Absolutely,
it can show up as perfectionism, as procrastination, as putting things off, as anger.
Right.
And
so
sadness.
we don't label it even within ourselves as I'm fearful of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is exactly when we dig down, when we really look at it, that's what's happening.
Right.
And so all of that is, remember we talked about reactivity. All of that is a form of emotional reactivity.
Yeah.
And what I mean is we're not choosing. We're just reacting. We're just reacting. What is a trigger? A trigger is something that happens almost automatically.
Yeah.
It's automatic behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when we're triggered, things don't go well for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, this shows up as somebody saying, I have to respond this way, or that's just how I am. But that's not really what's happening. I mean, it's just so quick that it feels that way, right?
Yeah.
But what's really happening is your nervous system, your body, is recognizing something familiar in the present and responding to it as if it were in the past.
Yeah,
and it's trying to protect you as well.
This is a simple example, but it's one that comes to mind. If somebody were to compliment you, right?
Right.
You would probably get flattered.
Well, there are some people who have trouble with that.
Well, maybe so, but
yeah.
hold on. Let me make my point here. And if someone were to insult you, you would likely become offended, right?
You could.
And it happens so quickly that we don't perceive that there's choice there.
Right.
But
we don't
there
notice
is.
the pause.
We don't notice the pause because it can be very quick. But it's still, even if it's a nanosecond, it's still a choice.
And I would argue, even after the fact, there's always a pause after.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say even you go through and you're in this process of learning how to recognize triggers and to pause in the moment and respond differently. You're not a failure if you get triggered and then react immediately and then pause.
Yeah.
Because, at any point that you catch it, you are engaging in conscious creation, right? So if you...
It's never too late to stop and ask why.
Absolutely. If you're offered an insult and you catch yourself getting flared up and you might even bite back, but then suddenly you realize, oh, I remember what those crazy folks on the radio said, that I don't have to take that, right?
Yeah.
And so in that moment you can say, oh, you can change at any moment.
I can do something different.
I can do something different. I can decide to let that go.
Yeah.
And to move on with my day, because that's not really who I am. And I don't agree with that insult. I'm not going to take it.
And I would challenge all of us, I'm including myself in here, to try this.
Yep.
And try it more than once and see what happens. See how you feel.
Another big thing here in the pause, important to the pause, is being able to slow down. And because to be able to pause and to slow down in the moment, a lot of times it takes some practice pausing and slowing down when you don't need to.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that can be hard in a culture that really doesn't support the pause or the rest.
This reminds me of the work of Byron Katie. And Byron Katie's, is responsible for, asking 4 questions and helping people through those 4 questions to make a turnaround. But what she's doing, and her main book is called Loving What Is her. She's written other books, but her first book, and the one that kind of put her on the map, is Loving What Is. And she teaches 4 simple, they're so simple, and yet they're so profound. So whatever it is that comes up that you're questioning, just simply ask, is that true? Well, normally we would, yeah, of course that's true. But here's the second question. Do I absolutely positively know that that's true? Okay, well, that one usually gets us. Here's question number 3. What happens when I think that thought? And question number 4 is obviously, how would my life be different if I chose not to think that thought automatically? And, there's a lot of books out there that are important and that change lives, and Loving What Is one of them.
Right.
Even though it's so simple, it's a very powerful concept, and it's kind of exactly what we're talking about today.
It flows right into intentionality, right? Because if you're able to choose a thought, then you're able to consciously create in the moment, because everything is first created in thought, in mind.
So if we don't choose our direction, what's going to happen is our conditioning is going to choose it for us.
Yes.
I mean, so what does that really mean? Our conditioning, it means somebody else is living our lives.
Absolutely.
We were, and again, not putting down anything, because it's up to each one of us to do our work. We were all given a download of a lot of beliefs, a lot of things that we were told, well, this is just the way it is. But if we never question them, if we never put them to the test through our own lens, then somebody else is living our life for us.
Yeah.
And
I don't know who, but it ain't
don't know
you.
who. Yeah, it may be many. It may be more than one. And again, this is not always a bad thing, because, we may certainly choose, we may look at the beliefs that we were taught, and there's some of them that we're certainly going to choose to say, yeah, I align with that. That's me.
Right.
But there's also, I guarantee, going to be beliefs that once you really take them apart, once you put them under the microscope, if you will, there are some beliefs that just won't make sense, and that you won't keep.
Yeah. But I also want to mention that sometimes even misalignment can feel normal.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that you might come out of this thinking, well, if something feels off, then I'll change it. But sometimes what's familiar feels safer than what's aligned or what's true for us.
Yeah.
And so that's the importance of questioning and just being willing to step back and look at our thoughts and our actions and asking, okay, well, is this really who I want to create and become in the world?
Most of us have cars, and it has an autopilot on it, right? A cruise control.
Sure.
And think about that cruise control. If it were set years ago, then who's driving the car? It ain't me. But with intentionality, I'm taking the wheel.
Yep.
I'm taking the steering wheel back, and I'm steering now. Doesn't that feel good?
Well, it might feel uncomfortable at first, but it should.
Yeah.
In the end,
you'll live life.
That's right.
We're talking intentionality today here on Strategies for Living. Be right back.
We all have problems every day. We all need help along the way. We need strategies, strategies, strategies for living radio.
And welcome back in. Welcome back. I'm glad that you are intentionally listening to Strategies for Living. At least I hope you're intentionally listening.
Intentionally or unintentionally. Here you are, and I hope you take some of it in.
Yeah, exactly. Because Lauren, Leon, McMillian, David McMillian, we show up every day around this time to offer all of us, messages of healthiness and body, mind, spirit, relationships, how to live and align our lives, to live a healthy life. So much of that has to do with what we're talking about today, which is intentionality, living our lives on purpose. Now, we're strategies for living, right?
Last I checked.
Yeah. So if we're strategies for living, and we've made the point, and I hope we have, of the power of intentionality. And again, just consider that every single person, whoever you are, you're listening to my voice, you are a powerful person.
Yes, you are.
And you might yell back at the radio, "Sure don't feel like that, son." I understand that for a lot of us, yeah? And would you just stop and consider that what we're talking about today might be why it doesn't feel like you're a powerful being.
And you make a good point there, because all of these ways of unconsciously living is actually giving your power away.
Right.
Because if you're still living by someone else's script or someone else's rule book or idea of the way life ought to be lived, you're giving your power away.
Absolutely.
Consistently, over and over again. And even if you're triggered and you're allowing someone else to insult you and get a rise, you're giving your power away.
You're giving that power away. So here's the good news. Here's the great news. Intentionality is a practice. We're not born with it or not born with it. Intentionality is a practice. It's not a personality trait. So there are strategies. There are practical strategies that you can use to develop more intentionality. And we've been talking all around one of them, which is pause.
Yep.
Before, get in the habit, and actually, there can be a gap that you create between stimulus and response, and do that intentionally. Even if you don't do it intentionally, there's still going to be a gap, but it's just going to be an unconscious thing.
Yeah, you're not going to recognize it. It'll go right by you.
Right. Pause before you proceed. Just get in the habit. Change your habit of slowing down.
Yeah, I mean, even the simple take a few breaths, right? And you can even amp up, if you will, the power of the pause by using it intentionally to label what's happening, right? By saying something like, "I'm feeling triggered," or "I'm rushing."
Yeah.
Or even noticing, "Oh, I think I'm trying to prove myself or something here."
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just that we know on a brain, on a neurological level, that naming, that labeling helps to create separation from that autopilot state. Right. And
so even 3 seconds, even if it's as short as 3 seconds, it can change everything. Just give yourself a bit. The pause is where the power lives. That's where the power lies.
Yeah. And I think this, just like with anything, it's important to practice when there's low stakes, so that you can use it in the high stakes situation when you get triggered, right? So what are some low stakes places that you could insert the pause as a practice?
Yep.
Like right before you enter your home.
Yep.
Take a few breaths and allow yourself to release wherever you've been and to enter the home fresh, right?
Or if you're going home, most of us, when we walk into the home we grew up in or our parents' home, we kind of go into an unconscious.
You go back into the realm. You go back in time,
back
right?
into the realm. But what if you were to pause and challenge yourself when you walk in.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have to do that.
Right.
It doesn't have to be auto.
Oh,
right?
and you can add some spice there, and put your hand on your heart and remind yourself, I am blank years old, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I have my own boundaries in my own life.
Remind yourself how old you are, not 3.
Whatever reminders you need, right?
All right, another strategy is to set daily intentions, not just goals for yourself, because goals are outcome,
Yeah.
but intentions are the way a way of being.
Mm-hmm.
So, some examples of this. Today, I intend to be more present. Today, I intend to respond with patience. Today, I intend to be more self-compassionate and compassionate towards everybody that I meet.
Yeah.
Today, I intend to act from self-respect. Now, if we were to set those intentions, and those are intentions, you can see they're not goals, right?
Yeah.
They're intentions. And if we set intentions for ourselves each day, it can change the way we live.
I love that. And I also love to also insert the word allow, because I think so many of us can want something or intend even in thought to create more of something, but we unconsciously disallow or block it, right?
Yeah.
And so a way to activate the intention maybe would be to say, I allow, right?
Yeah.
I allow more joy into my life.
There you go.
I'm
There you go.
allowing more peace.
Another strategy is to check your alignment several times throughout the day. So stop and ask yourself, maybe like Dr. Pepper, 10, 2, and 4. That's an old marketing concept for Dr. Pepper.
Yeah,
they wanted you to
have
drink one at 10, at 2, and at 4.
Oh, that's real
10,
great
2, and
for
4.
you. That's
yeah,
healthy.
yeah. But you could do a Dr. Pepper alignment. So ask yourself several times a day, is this aligned with who I want to be? And what is my intention now?
Ooh.
What is my intention right now? Because, again, little shifts, small intentional shifts can create massive life changes over time.
Yeah. Just doing a check-in, right? A check-in with self at that moment to say, where am I? Take some time to be with your body, whatever that is, placing a hand on your heart or taking a few deep breaths and then asking, okay, where am I coming from right now? What sort of frequency and energy am I bringing in to this space?
Most of us want less regrets in our life, don't we?
I'd say.
I would offer all of us that intentionality reduces regret.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to regret when you're consciously choosing each moment.
Yes. Yes.
What you're bringing into the space.
Yeah. And so the power of intentionality. Now, if you miss some of this and say, I wish I could rehear this part or that part, you can. Yeah, because we're in podcasts.
Anywhere.
So you don't ever have to miss a bit of Strategies for Living. Just go to your favorite download place for podcasts. We're on all the major places, and put in Strategies for Living. We'll be there, and subscribe to us. Don't ever have to miss a program. Be intentional about that. See how I did that?
Clever.
We'll be right back. And welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian, and the power of intentionality today. No question, absolutely no question that you are a powerful being, but are you living your life that way? And if you're not, if you say, no, I'm not, please offer yourself a look at how intentional am I living?
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't mean perfection, right?
No.
It just means that you're choosing to be awake and living and conscious in your life, right? To
Absolutely.
pause, to notice, and to choose. because each moment gives you a quiet opportunity for you to be able to stop and ask, how do I want to show up right now? What is it that I want to create in this space in my life? And when you begin to live from that place and stop reacting to it, then you begin creating it. And that.
And here's another piece of good news. No matter what has happened in the past, even whether it's 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago, doesn't matter. You can, if with what we're talking about today, any of us,
you can massively change your life.
Turn on a dime.
Yep.
And I mean, we all want a genie in a bottle, right?
Metanoia.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is our genie, and it's been there all along within ourselves. We just didn't know exactly how to access it.
That's why it's called intention, to stretch in.
Ooh.
It's been within.
I see how you did that. You came all the way back around.
I do.
See, I'd have forgotten that. Good job.
It was intentional.
Good deal. Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being here with us, and we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Learning RX, We Train Your Brain, the Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of the Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, and pretty good Muffies too, SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira Direct Primary Care. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you call? And what would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Lauren Leon McMillian, I'm David McMillian. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.